My first attempt at doing an open website in an academic context has been for my ESRM 492 Service Learning in New Orleans class. And this is a class wherein we have some component here on campus, but the bulk of the time spent is actually in New Orleans, is outside of California. And this was my first attempt at a tool that would be both serving to the students in the class, but also help try to bring the experience to folks outside of the class, folks outside of the academic environment, and a first stab at being a collaboratory space. So let's take a look at what we did.
Here's our site. The most important page is the front page, is the landing page, and that's also our blog. We have our logo here, we have a couple links we'll talk about in a second, and then we have just a little bit of background info about what we do. This is where students will post, this is where I would post information, and this is the main place that people would interact with the website. In addition to this, we have a host of other pages. We have an About page, we have a page talking about course information, etc. If you click on any of these, you'll get additional information such as information about our class, what this whole thing's about, a little mini version of a syllabus, etc. In addition to those things, we have a couple of things that are highlighted here at the top of our page. The first is pictures and videos. On this page, you'll find our multimedia. These are some plugins that I've added here. In this case, this is one grabbing recent images from our Flickr stream. The same thing down here. This one will not work on iOS, on iPhones and the like. This guy will work on any device. So slightly different plugins, doing a little bit different things, but pulling from the same photo stream on Flickr. This next button, Where Be We, was a failed experiment. The idea here was to geotag our posts. It did not work well. I tried a bunch of different things. It just simply didn't work. But the idea was to have been you could have followed us in real time without us having to do anything. The posts themselves, the pictures themselves would generate the geotags and people would be able to follow our trip through this map. Did not work. Have a host of other tools we can use now to do this. So we'll improve it in the future. But this would be an example of a failed experiment. Next, a brief word about templates, the overall design of a web page in WordPress. It's very easy to get sucked into the hurricane, the black hole of template hunting, where there are more than 70,000 templates you can choose from. Don't do that. Just start with a basic one, a simple one, and go with that. You can either use the favorites. In my case, I prefer a dark template, dark background with light fonts. This works generally very well in most situations, does not work well, it turns out, in the field. On small mobile devices in the sun, this template, for example, if we open our menu here, what you'll find is that it's very hard to read when the sun is shining on your screen of your phone. Secondly, I would strongly encourage you to make sure you pick a responsive template, one that adapts its size and display of information to the size of the screen. Almost everyone, my students, the public, whoever was looking at this page, almost everyone was using a smaller screen, a mobile device, and a responsive template will make sure that it's adjusted properly. As far as how we got information onto our blog, we had a couple different ways. In general, we mixed pictures, and these are easy to change the size of these, but pictures with video. Now, we didn't host any of the video ourselves. All of the video is posted to an external site, in this case YouTube. That keeps the data management, the amount of memory we have to dedicate to this on our service, to a minimum. Video really eats up memory. We have a mix of post types. Some are reflective, such as these that students have entered. Others are much more simple, such as a simple post like this, a picture that a student posted. Another lesson that I learned was to not just let them post of course people can post whatever, my students could post whatever, but just simply saying post oftentimes generated simply a picture that someone uploaded with no reflection, no text. So I very quickly learned to require them to do 2 posts a day, one of which could be, I should say at least 2 posts a day. One could be a quick post of a picture or something they saw in the daytime or a funny observation, but then to do a more reflective post, a more text-based post when we got back to the hotel room if there was time at night, which there usually wasn't. Another lesson that we found revolves around mobile posting. Almost all of my students we're using the WordPress mobile app to add stuff to our blog. And as you see here, this happened fairly frequently. It could be when we're on the edge of a cell phone data network, but it seemed to happen other times as well. But generally, we were in the middle of uploading a picture. The student had entered some text and was uploading a picture, and then something just went haywire. And so there's partial information that has gotten up there, but the image itself hasn't. So we had problems in many cases rendering multimedia images on our posts from the mobile app. Never happened from the computer. The other and much more substantial problem had to do with poor spelling, poor grammar. Everybody is entering information on a small screen, typing with their thumbs in the middle of the swamp or what have you, and spelling often was problematic. Basic grammar sometimes went out the window, and so a lot of the posts I was quite embarrassed with what was going up there, and I encouraged students to, when we got back to, say, a hotel room, to go ahead and try to re-edit those and clean those up. Most people did not do that. In my original conception, this website was generally to be a tool for reflection and student engagement. And that did definitely happen. But it turns out it perhaps was most important after the trip. And it really was quite valuable. Many students comment on this, that it functioned as a travel log and a source for post-trip scholarship. What did we do on this day? What did we do on that day? Oh, I forgot about that. And so it's been a wonderful archive for my students that went on the trip. And that's the first thing. Second thing is that it really was quite important for many of our students. Most of our students are first-generation college goers. And in years past, some people, oftentimes moms, would call up and email and text and check on their students. They were worried about their students, first time they've ever been out of the state. And we got essentially none of that this trip. And anecdotally, that was because everybody's parents, everybody's friends, everybody's colleagues were following us through the blogs. They didn't feel they needed to call and check on their sons and daughters and this and that. So that was a wonderful benefit from this. Of course, also, this tool allowed other people to follow our trip, not just our students, not just their immediate friends. And we got a lot of positive comments from folks in Louisiana, folks in California, etc. So in summary, this was a great first try. A lot of things I was not super happy with, and there's a huge amount of room for improvement with this. But as a first try, I think this was great. This is a wonderful tool. I think it's going to be really helpful for classes in the future, especially service learning experiences. And we plan on continuing to use this tool here in the Environmental Science and Resource Management program at California State University, Channel Islands. Thank you.